Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are doing another remote. We're here at the venerable San Diego Humane Society on Gaines Street with my co-host, Kristen Fogel, that you will see in some of the pictures is holding two young puppies. You will not hear her say a word for the next 2.5 hours.
I'm
sure.
done.
Exactly.
I'm here.
How cute are they?
They're so cute.
I think that's fantastic. And so joining us is Kristen, Industry Outreach and Workforce Development Chief Cook and Bottle Washer for MiraCosta Community College, Education and Workforce Development. So, Chris, good to see you again.
Thanks for having me, Drew. Great to see you. And the puppies are just...
You like that, yeah?
Cute beyond all measure.
It is, yeah, great. We can't wait to see some of these that Brandon, our producer, will be taking and putting up on our social media. So, Chris, tell us how long you've been working in this position and, what exactly is the goal of what you do?
Yeah, so I've been here about 3 years, played a variety of roles, as most of us do in the community college space. We run, as the workforce development arm of the college, we run certificate-based programs, really accelerated and hands-on in nature, designed to get students kind of in, trained, and then directly into the workforce with living wage, career path jobs.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I had a question.
Yeah.
Have you seen more of an increase in people, doing certificates as opposed to, full-fledged, like 4-year college type stuff?
It is absolutely a trend that's happening as people, and there's a lot of factors that play into that, and we can get into that discussion, but certainly people are reassessing the value of a 4-year college and really figuring out what skills they need to have the job they want, and then where do they get those skills? And in some cases, that may be a 4-year university, but in many cases, it's not. And there's a variety of career paths that don't require that length of education.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as you know, Kristen and Krista's too, our affiliation with the Classroom of the Future Foundation is just spot on about all of that. And we want to focus on college and career, not college or career. If you choose not to go to college, that's fine. We want to make sure that you've had the coursework. So if you want to go to 2 or 4 year school, you can do that. Of course, 2-year school, you go to once you turn 18, even before, if you so desire on this. Do you do any programs with the high schools where that's dual enrollment, where they get college credit while they're still in high school?
So at the main campus, we do.
Right.
That's a well-established program with the local high schools.
Right.
At our program, we are the not-for-credit portion of the school. So our certificate programs don't necessarily set you on a pathway to a 2 or a 4 year.
Right.
Therefore, they don't work with the dual enrollment model.
Right.
That being said, we do a considerable amount of outreach to high schools, both presenting in the high schools as well as hosting them here, so they get exposure to the programs and the careers available through our department.
Right. Chris, how much do you work with groups like the San Diego Workforce Partnership on here are the trends, here are the jobs that are going to be in the immediate future, and who knows, maybe into the future, versus, you know what, that's a nice pathway, but the way we're seeing the trends, it's not going to really go much further.
Yeah. Well, so again, as the workforce development arm of the college, we need to keep up with those trends, because if we don't, we will be left behind by them.
Right.
We actually have a partnership with San Diego Workforce Partnership now, where they are providing paid internships for 2 of our programs. So it's a really great opportunity for students to get hands-on experience, and then local employers get free labor. They can sort of try before they buy for candidates that are performing on the job.
And what are those programs?
So there's 2 programs currently, the engineering technician and the machinist technician program.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah, and those are just going to continue to grow, and there'll be tentacles from those. Is there a tie-in to, everyone's talking about it, you can't, unless you're in the space station Mir, you don't, I'm guarantee you've heard about it in the space station Mir, artificial intelligence. You cannot talk about careers without AI or cyber.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are programs we're certainly looking at, and they are incorporated now into many of the programs that we run. This, AI is a tool that is going to, be. I get the word that comes to mind is infecting. That's sort of a negative outlook. I think it's going to be a fantastic tool, but we're absolutely doing our best to keep pace with that and incorporate it, not only in the programs we teach, but in how we actually run the school.
Yeah, and I think we are, ladies and gentlemen, when I say we at the Classroom of the Future, we just put on our 7th annual summit. And what we wound up doing is talking about the new trends when it comes to college and career and all that business. We had a really good breakout session on AI, so it's great. And I'm going to ask the puppies a question that
they're
Kristen is
so
holding.
engaged right now. Look at them. I mean, I wish that we were doing like a YouTube thing because they're just heads on the table, totally alert, ready.
If I could get students to pay as close attention as these two,
look at these
very
two
young puppies are paying me right now.
They were made to podcast.
And what's going to happen next is, like most people that listen to my show, they'll be asleep in a second. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
They are very, very, very cute, as we are. Doing a special remote from the San Diego Humane Society. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight in the Community show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades. Been doing great things for us folk here in San Diego County. We are joined by Chris Ng, Industry Outreach and Workforce Development for MiraCosta College, Community Education and Workforce Development, joined by my co-host, who is so lucky that Kristen Fogel is holding these two cute puppies. Kristen is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. They're celebrating their 20th anniversary. I think you need to incorporate some puppies in some of your upcoming events.
Gosh, we really do. And when we first moved to Liberty Station about 10 years ago, I mean, we were just puppies galore. They have more rules now about things, but we would just bring all the dogs, and it was a very grand time, Drew.
Well, listen, that's a career pathway. Veterinarians and anybody who has spent any time, we'll be talking to Dr. Gary Weitzman later on in the show. Gary is the CEO of the Humane Society, probably one of the top veterinarians in the country. He's written 10 books. But they are at a crisis level right now in 2 ways. One, there's not enough veterinarians, not even close to enough veterinarians, and there's too many dogs or mainly dogs, animals to adopt and all that in that area. So, Chris, talk a little bit about, we mentioned this earlier, the internship partnership you have with the Workforce Partnership.
Yeah, so it's funded through the San Diego Workforce Partnership. They're targeting disadvantaged communities, which is a large portion of the student population that we serve.
Right.
And internships have been shown, statistically to both improve the student's chances of getting a job and then retaining that job once they're in the workforce. So it's a critical bridge between the classroom and the workforce. The fact that then students are paid on top of it and the employer has to pay nothing to basically assess them in the on-the-job training. I mean, it's really kind of a win-win.
That's huge. Now, are you funded through the college itself, through the college in grants, individual donations, all of the above?
Yeah, so I mentioned at the outset we're the not-for-credit portion of the college, meaning we don't get the general education dollars that the main campus gets. So we are, in essence, self-funded.
Right.
We write a lot of grants. If you talk to our executive director, she will tell you that many of her nights and weekends are spent writing those grants.
Sure.
Because otherwise, we're a tuition-based campus. The higher the tuition base is, the fewer students we have. And we really want to be as open, as accommodating as possible. And so to keep that tuition low, grant funding, and really philanthropic donations and support through our industry partnerships becomes kind of an integral part of our model.
And how do you find your industry partners? Do they find you? Do you go out and actively recruit? What does that look like?
A little bit of both. When I came on about 3 years ago, again, for industry outreach, we had about 75 standard industry partners.
Wow.
That number is now up to about 600.
Amazing.
Largely because before me, they didn't have a dedicated person doing industry outreach.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in some cases it's old-fashioned cold calling and door knocking, and fortunately, we've got a really good reputation in the community as as a spot for skilled workers. So we've got a known name, and when I walk in the door saying, "Hey, do you have any issues with your workforce? Because I've got 30 engineering techs graduating in next month. Can we sit down and talk?" Usually I'm welcomed with fairly open arms.
And is that the sector that you're most kind of recruiting for? Or are there other sectors that you're like, gee, I wish I could find some partners in this sector?
Our absolute newest program, pilot program, just up and running now, started about a month ago, will finish in about 2 months, is an electrician program. And so I'm sort of hot and heavy on the trail for any electricians, mostly North County, but I'd take anyone in the San Diego County area that might be looking for entry-level skilled electricians.
Very cool.
Well, and I think what's great about all of this, and certainly it's not lost on the folks that live in the space, we want to keep talented folks here in San Diego County.
Right.
And what you're doing is exactly that. Instead of them moving on to some other parts of the country, which they certainly can do so, let's keep them here in San Diego.
That's exactly right. And to do that, they have to be paid a living wage. As we all know, we've got an affordable housing issue throughout the county. Workers at fast food are now making $20 an hour. So we've got to see skilled labor coming in above that to ensure that we retain that workforce locally.
Right, and we all need to be rowing in that direction. Talk about your work with we talked a little bit about this with the high schools in the area or the school districts.
Yeah, so again, we do a lot of outreach directly to high school, and it's critical. The biggest issue for us, and really for high school students, is exposure, not only to our programs, but really to the career paths that our programs can set students on. Because we all know that teachers are busy, counselors are busy, and they just don't have the time or the bandwidth for the breadth of fantastic career wage jobs that are out there. And so it's sort of incumbent upon us as the provider of those skills to be ensuring that we're presenting at the local high schools. We're showing up for their college career fairs. We're talking to their, to their counseling staff, to their CTE pathway coordinators to ensure that they know our programs exist and that there's a variety of really exciting, really interesting work out there in the county.
Yeah, when we come back from break, we're going to continue the conversation with Chris Ng, Industry Outreach and Workforce Development for MiraCosta College, Community Education and Workforce Development. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, just doing great work for us folk living in San Diego County, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. We will be back with Chris and these 2 wonderful puppies after a quick break.
Back.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. We are broadcasting from the San Diego Humane Society. You can do all of our Spotlight podcasts today from this beautiful place. We got 2 puppies that are in the studio, I guess, with us today. My co-host is holding on to them. They are very, very cute. You'll see pictures of them once we go ahead and put them on social media. And maybe my producer, Brandon Joe, had some questions for you, Chris. But before we do that, talk a little bit about your job placement rates.
Yeah, that's really kind of a source of pride for us. If you look kind of more broadly across the 2 and the 4 year landscape, the employment placement rates hover in the high 50s, low 60s. That is, You went to school to become a finance major. The chances that you're working as a finance major post-graduation are somewhere in the high 50s, low 60s. For our programs, we're really proud to report that ours are in the low 80s.
Wow.
High 80s to low 90s across our program. In fact, again, to spotlight the engineering tech program, through 3 cohorts during the pandemic, we had 100% job placement rate for that program. So I would encourage anyone who's listening, who's contemplating a career and education path, if you're looking at a college, if you're looking at an educational path, find out what their placement rates are, because that's really sort of a critical part of the education landscape these days.
Yeah, with that question, Brandon?
Just out of curiosity, how do you expose different students to the different pathways? You mentioned that one of the things you do is do presentations to the students, but I'm just curious on a little bit more into those presentations, because at least as a student, we did have those presentations, but I never really paid attention. Just as a young person, I was just like, oh, another like workforce thing. But just curious on how you guys do it.
Yeah, so really the best way to understand what we do is to get students to our campus. We've got really interesting labs where you'll see drones flying around the campus, you'll see robotic arms, you'll see welding booths, machinists. So that really makes it real and tangible for the students. That would be our first goal, is to get them on campus, because they don't need to hear me standing up in front of a PowerPoint. That's not going to really hit home for them. Mm-hmm. To be able to see students their own age or just a little bit older working with this equipment, flying the drones, working the robotic arm, that's really what makes it real. Second to that was then, giving a PowerPoint presentation, but with videos of students in action, making it real and tangible for them. Like, this could be you. I also like to bring former students to high school. So, perfect example, I've got a 22-year-old right now. He's working for a local company. He's a field service technician. He's traveled to Hong Kong already as a 22-year-old. Wow. He graduated from Carlsbad High, whatever that would be, 4 or 5 years ago. So I bring him along whenever I can to a presentation, because for students to see someone who sat in their same chair, listened to the same teacher, who is now out in the world through our program doing this incredible work, that makes students hopefully pay attention.
Yeah, that's incredible. And just on that note, did the student that you that went to Hong Kong, he didn't ever go to higher education, did he? Or did he just go through your program and get a lot of experience via actually on hands? Really?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right.
Awesome.
He had graduated high school. He didn't want to do a 2 or a 4-year route. He had played worked at a variety of roles that weren't really of interest to him. He discovered our program, and really from that, it was like he was shot out of a cannon.
Wow. I mean, it just goes against the grain of what all of the things that are whispered into our ears of like, the only way to get a good job is higher education. You get a bachelor's, you get a master's, which still doesn't guarantee you a job. I'm talking to a lot of my college friends that or I have a cousin that's a master's student in mechanical engineering, and he can't get a job. All of his people that are graduating in his cohort can't get a job, even though they graduated. So it's amazing to hear that you guys are producing these sorts of results with less time, less money, and for people who wouldn't have had an opportunity in the first place. That's amazing. I love it.
Well, thank you for recognizing it. Tell all your friends.
And I think that's shifting slightly, though, too, because I grew up in the same thing. This is the traditional path that you go on. And those of us raising littles, though, now, I think it's more and more just kind of in the DNA that college is expensive. Like, are we even going to be able to pay for that once they come of age? And so a lot of us with young kids are even just now like, look at the tech schools, look at the certificate programs, look at life experience, look at all of these other pathways that are so, can be so important, because you're totally right. Like, people are not getting jobs going this traditional way.
And I'll take you a step further on this. And listen, I'm nothing against my 4-year
likewise
university friends. But listen, the folks.
This dog really wants to join the podcast.
The puppy is trying to interview Chris right now. But those schools need to check their trajectory and what type of courses they're offering.
Yeah.
And we know this. This is not an earth-shaking comment. The challenge is that when a 4-year school is turning down 75,000 people to get in, they just think, well, we must be doing something right, until they go ahead and see what folks like Chris are doing and saying, let me get this right here. I'm going to graduate or finish with no debt, I'm starting at $60,000 a year. I was actually interning and getting paid to do this, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. Let me do it. $250,000 debt, and I'm making 2 cents an hour or this. You kidding me? And of course, Chris knows I'm fond of saying this stuff because programs like Chris's, we cannot do enough of, we can't advertise enough, and so forth. And talking to Chris Ng, Industry Outreach and Workforce Development for MiraCosta College Community Education, and joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She's the Executive Director of San Diego Writers Inc. And Brandon Joe, he's a producer of Spotlight. He's also the CEO and founder of Treasure Hacks, his own entrepreneurial activity. I know, Kristen, you had a question for our good friend Chris.
Yeah, I do. Since I'm the story gal over here, I just wondered if you had any readily available stories of individuals or groups that, your programs really made a difference in the lives of.
Thank you. Kristen, so many of those stories, our programs can be really transformational, and we serve people who have, grown up with real hardships, are in some cases coming to us as sort of like their last gasp. I can remember a student, Adriana, who came to us. She was a single mom, three students. She was in the process of being evicted from her apartment when she came to us. She was working an entry-level job, very repetitive, a manufacturing job where she was doing the same repetitive task, 8 hours a day. But she had clearly a spark in her. Her kids ranged in age from 3 to 17.
Wow.
So you can imagine what her home life was like.
Yeah, it's challenging.
She came to our engineering program, which is an intensive program. It runs Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30. So it's a 40-hour-a-week class, very intensive. So she managed still to raise her kids throughout that experience. Graduated with an internship at a local advanced manufacturer. After the internship, was hired based on her performance in the internship, and about 6 months later was actually promoted to supervisor. She's making about $75,000 a year now.
Amazing.
And I just think about her, not only what that's done for her, but her kids, seeing the transformation that mom did in 4 months. I mean, that's going to have generational impact for that family.
Absolutely.
Well, you hit on something that is so critical that we bring up all the time. Kristen and Brandon and I on our shows, yes, you might be impacting that one person, but the tentacles go out. So now that's that person's kids or aunts or uncles or brothers or sisters. And then by them going out now, I mean, you talk about them being an ambassador for your program. Are you kidding me? You've turned around that life, and then there's probably 55 other folks to do it, and it's exponential. And we really can't talk enough about those. So, Chris, what can we do? What can our Spotlight on the Community listeners do to continue to support the great work you're doing?
Well, short of writing me a check for 50 or 60 million for a new expanded facility, expanded programs, and
that's pocket change for Brandon. That's pocket change. That is pocket change for Brandon.
Great. I'll buy him a coffee afterwards.
Very good.
Really, Drew, exposure is still what we need. We hear the phrase hidden gem all the time, and while I'm happy about the gem portion of it, we need to have more students who know about this as an option. Not only our program, but the career paths that come out of this program. There is really good paying, career wage, interesting, hands-on work available in the county that a lot of students just simply aren't exposed to.
Right, and that's the whole thing about we've been doing this for 18 years now, the longest running community podcast in the nation, is we want to expose in a good way what's going on in the communities, because there's so many great programs like this. But yours comes down to, this is a pathway that you're going to be enjoying because of the fruits of what we've done here. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, lifetime.
That's right.
And I think that's absolutely fantastic in that vein. Kristen, any other comments for our good friend Chris Ng?
No, thanks for the good work you do. And puppies, good job.
Yeah, excellent work.
Excellent work.
Yeah, they did a great job. Brandon, any other questions for Chris?
Do we have time?
We have time for one quick question.
I'm just curious, it might not be quick, but what's the importance of investing in yourself? Because I think for you guys, you're more honed in on, instead of like the academics and like, you know all this stuff, but actually applying it, actually learning the stuff that can make you successful in the workforce. Like what are these things and why are they important?
Oh, Brendan, you are wise beyond your years, young Jedi.
He is very smart.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. And you know, when I present to high school students, I kind of give the 30,000 foot view. And I give them two statistics. One is that the graduating class of 2024 over the working course of their career is estimated to have between 14 and 17 different roles. Now, technology and society are also moving so quickly that it's estimated that 80% of those jobs don't even exist today. Now, that's a hard statistic for students to wrap their heads around, but I tell them, look, there was a time before Instagram, before YouTube. You go back, there was a time before Facebook and Google, right? But now there's people making millions, if not billions of dollars off of those companies. But 5 years before those companies exist, you couldn't even hardly explain those roles to students, right? So that trajectory is continuing, and if anything, it's accelerating. The common denominator in those two things is the student. So I say, figure out what it is you like doing, figure out what it is you're passionate about, figure out what it is you enjoy doing, what you can imagine doing 8-10 hours a day, and really get in touch with that, because chances are there's going to be a career path around those skills, abilities, passions for you. So the more that you can kind of look inward, and I know that's hard for a 16, 17-year-old. I've got two 16-year-olds and a 19-year-old at home. But the more you can get in touch with who you are, that's going to be what sets you on your path.
Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, always enjoy you coming in. Next time we have you in, why don't you bring in a couple of folks who have benefited from the coursework that you've had, right?
I'd love that.
I'd love to have the story you just told, if she's willing to do that, or anyone in that aspect of it, because you got so much street cred and your success on that. So always a pleasure having you on, and wish you nothing but continued success.
Really appreciate it. You bring the puppies, I'll bring the students, and let's do this all
Let's
again.
do it.
Well, this may be a permanent location, and I know Gary Weitzman is listening to this right now. He says, no, I don't think so. And it is very cool to be here at the San Diego Humane Society. We've been chatting with Chris Ng, Industry Outreach and Workforce Development for MiraCosta College, and all this cool thing that's going on, that beautiful community college. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, just doing great things for folk living in San Diego County. Thank you so much, co-host Kristen Fogel and my producer Brandon Joe. I hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.